Pushpin disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction inspired by real emotional experiences. It explores the complexities of relationships, regret, and personal growth. Any resemblance to actual events or people is purely coincidental. Reader discretion is advised for emotional sensitivity. Emma stood in the dimly lit kitchen, arms crossed, heart racing. It was 11:42 p.m., and Liam still hadn't come out of the study. Another night of silence. Another evening of being roommates, not lovers. The tension between them had been building for months. Unspoken frustrations, half-hearted conversations, missed kisses, forgotten promises. She had tried everything. Gentle hints, emotional outbursts, quiet tears behind closed doors. But nothing seemed to reach him anymore. Tonight, when he casually brushed off her suggestion for a weekend getaway, "I've got too much going on, maybe next time," something in her cracked. "I don't think I can do this anymore," she blurted out, her voice trembling but firm. From behind his laptop, Liam looked up. His expression was unreadable, neutral. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe I should just leave. Maybe I should stop pretending like we're okay when we're clearly not," she said, more forcefully than she had intended. In truth, she didn't want to leave. She just wanted him to fight for her, to tell her she was wrong, that they could fix this. But Liam didn't. He simply closed his laptop slowly, exhaled, and said, "If that's how you feel, maybe you should." The words hit her like cold water to the face. She froze. "Wait. What?" He stood up, walked past her to the bedroom, and began packing a small bag. Not frantically. Not angrily. Just with quiet resolve. Emma followed him, panic rising in her throat. "I didn't mean it like that." "You've said it before," Liam replied without looking at her. "But this time, I believe you." She watched him fold a few shirts and place them gently into a duffel bag. Her mind screamed at her to say something, to stop this, but pride held her lips shut. Her threat had backfired in the most brutal way. That night, Emma lay alone in bed. The sheets felt too big, the silence too heavy. Her heart thudded in her chest as reality sank in. He actually took her seriously. She stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying the moment in her head like a broken film reel. The way he didn't yell. The way he didn't cry. He just walked away. Was he done loving her? Or had she unknowingly broken something that couldn't be repaired? As dawn crept through the window, one truth settled painfully into her chest. She had wanted a reaction, but what she got was abandonment. And it was only the beginning. The morning light didn't bring clarity, only dread. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly in her lap, waiting for Liam to return from the bathroom. Maybe he would say he overreacted. Maybe he just needed the night to think. Maybe they could start over. Instead, Liam walked out with the same calm expression, dressed in jeans and a black hoodie. His duffel bag was already by the door. No chaos. No second guessing. "I'll stay at Jake's for a while," he said, avoiding her eyes. Emma opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her throat was dry, her heart louder than her thoughts. "You're really leaving," she whispered. "You asked me to," he replied, flatly. "I just didn't think you'd be surprised when I listened." She wanted to scream, "I didn't mean it." But instead, she stood still, arms folded, heart racing, pride wrapped like armor around her pain. He slipped on his shoes, grabbed his keys, and turned toward her. "I think we both need space. I'm not sure either of us is happy anymore." The words stung more than she expected. Not happy? They had problems, yes, but didn't everyone? She thought they were just in a rough patch. She thought they'd get through it together. She followed him to the door. "So that's it?" she asked, her voice shaking. 5 years, and you walk out because I said something in the heat of the moment? Liam looked at her for a long time, eyes soft but tired. "It wasn't just last night. It's been building for a while. You say things to hurt me and then expect me to fight for you. I can't keep doing that." Her chest tightened. "I didn't want you to leave," she said, finally vulnerable. "I just wanted you to care." "I did," he said. "That's why I'm leaving now. Because I can't care for both of us anymore." Then he opened the door, stepped outside, and didn't look back. Emma didn't cry, not yet. She just stood in the silence of the apartment, the click of the door echoing like a gavel in a courtroom. Sentence delivered. Relationship over. She walked to the living room and sat on the couch they bought together. The place felt unfamiliar now, like someone had drained it of all its warmth. Their framed photos still hung on the wall, smiling at her mockingly. A life that had looked perfect from the outside. A relationship full of shared Spotify playlists, inside jokes, and quiet Sunday mornings. Gone in an instant. The day dragged on, numb and heavy. She didn't eat, didn't sleep, just kept glancing at the door, half expecting it to open. But it never did. And for the first time in years, Emma began to feel the weight of true loneliness, the kind that settles in your bones when you realize you pushed away the one person who would have stayed, if only you hadn't dared him to go. Emma woke up the next morning on the couch, still in the same clothes, her phone dead on the coffee table. For a few seconds, she forgot what had happened, until the quiet struck her again. No sound of Liam brushing his teeth. No kettle boiling. No sarcastic good morning grunt as he passed by in his hoodie. She plugged in her phone, waiting for the screen to light up. Maybe he had texted. Maybe he'd realized he made a mistake. Her heart leapt when it buzzed, only to drop again. 2 missed calls from her sister, a few emails, no messages from him. Still, she told herself it wasn't over. Liam just needed time. That's all. Space, like he said. She remembered how sensitive he could be, how he'd always pull away before calming down. He'd come back. He had to. By midday, Emma was scrolling through Instagram, posting a picture from her photo gallery, a smiling selfie with the caption, "Just needed a reset woman getting massage cherry blossom." It wasn't real, but it was armor. A little lie to convince herself, and maybe him, that she was fine. She even went out that evening. Wore her favorite dress, texted friends she hadn't seen in months, forced herself to laugh over drinks at a loud rooftop bar. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. Still no message. Back home, she looked in the mirror, makeup smudged and eyes tired. "He's being dramatic," she muttered. "He'll be back." Then she opened his drawer, half empty now, and her breath hitched. His favorite black sweater was gone. The one he always wore on bad days. That wasn't just space. That was intent. Panic flared in her chest. She opened her messaging app and typed, "Hey, are you okay?" Then deleted it. Typed again, "Can we talk?" Deleted again. No. She wasn't going to chase him. He should be the one coming back, apologizing. Right? She curled up in bed alone again, trying to fall asleep while convincing herself it was temporary. But the silence was loud. The stillness of the apartment made her feel like the walls were watching her crumble. Every corner reminded her of Liam, his unread books on the shelf, the mug he always left half full of coffee, the tiny chip on the wall from when they moved the couch in together and laughed until their stomachs hurt. She had built a life around him, even if she didn't admit it back then. Still, Emma clung to her pride. She wouldn't beg. She wouldn't break. She had said she could leave, and now she had to prove she could survive it. But deep down, under all the defiance and forced smiles, one terrifying question echoed in her mind. What if he doesn't come back at all? A week passed. No word. No texts. No accidental calls. Liam had vanished as if he had never been part of her life at all. Emma started checking his social media more obsessively. His Facebook hadn't updated in days, and his Instagram was blank as always. She even found herself searching his best friend Jake's posts for clues. Once, she spotted a blurry photo of Liam's car in the background of a group shot. He looked fine. Calm. Like her absence hadn't even scratched him. That image haunted her. It was a Sunday night when the truth finally caught up with her. The apartment was quiet again, and she sat on the floor surrounded by unopened takeout containers and a mess of laundry. She had been going through their old shared Google Drive folder, trying to organize photos she pretended not to care about. But then she opened a video, a short clip from a beach trip 2 summers ago. Liam had been recording her secretly, laughing as she tried to build a sandcastle. "You're doing it wrong," he teased in the video, zooming in on her serious face. She had laughed, thrown a handful of sand at him, and run straight into the water. The moment hit her like a wave. She paused the video, staring at her own smile. It was real. She had forgotten what they looked like when they were happy. Tears blurred her vision. Not just because she missed him, but because she realized, for the first time, that he had been trying. All those little moments, the jokes, the quiet gestures, the mornings he made coffee before she even got out of bed, she had dismissed them. She had spent months focusing on what he didn't say, what he didn't do, instead of seeing what he was giving. And now? She had pushed him away with words she never meant, expecting him to resist, to cling, to fix it. But he didn't. Because maybe he had been the one holding things together all along. Emma curled up on the floor, hugging a blanket around her, and whispered, "What did I do?" The guilt settled like a stone in her chest. She had thought he was the distant one, the cold one, the one who didn't try. But what if she had been blind? What if her expectations were so rigid, so unforgiving, that she never noticed the way he loved? Suddenly, it wasn't about whether he was coming back. It was about whether she deserved him to. She reached for her phone and opened their old thread. All the silly gifs, shared memes, late-night I love yous, they stared back at her like memories frozen in amber. She typed, "I miss you." But she didn't send it. For the first time, Emma realized this wasn't a fight anymore. It was a consequence. And it might be permanent. The next day, Emma sat at the edge of her bed with her phone in hand, staring at the unsent message, "I miss you." She hovered over the send button. Her thumb trembled. Every part of her wanted to reach out, to break the silence, to pull him back into her world. But fear anchored her fingers. What if he didn't reply? Or worse, what if he said it was too late? Still, she couldn't take it anymore. She deleted the old draft and typed something simpler, "Can we talk?" It was neutral. Safe. It left space for him to say yes or no. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she waited. The first hour was agony. She stared at her phone screen until it dimmed. Every buzz sent her heart racing, only to find it was a random email or a spam call. She turned the volume all the way up, just in case. 4 hours passed. Then 6. By evening, still no response. By nightfall, she called his number. It rang once. Then voicemail. She didn't leave a message. The silence felt louder than any fight they had ever had. She paced the living room like a ghost, every creak in the floor sounding like an accusation. She picked up his hoodie, the one he left behind, and clutched it like a lifeline. The smell of him was still faintly there, clean and warm. It shattered her. She whispered into the empty air, "I didn't mean it, Liam. I didn't want you to go." But he wasn't there to hear it. She tried to distract herself by watching TV, then cleaning, then organizing a bookshelf she hadn't touched in years. But nothing worked. The silence always circled back. The next day came and went. No reply. She checked his Instagram again. Still private. His last post was over a year ago. She searched his name in her contacts, as if hoping a different number might appear. It didn't. By the 3rd day, the denial had worn off. She wasn't waiting for a response anymore. She was just hoping against logic, like a child wishing their favorite toy would fix itself. The realization was slow but cruel. He's not calling back. Not because he wanted to punish her, but because he had moved on from the arguments, the pain, the emotional roller coaster. He had chosen peace. And she was not part of it anymore. Emma sat in her favorite corner of the couch, the one where he used to rest his feet in her lap while reading. She ran her hand over the cushion, remembering all the small, stupid moments they had shared, laughter during thunderstorms, debates about movie endings, burnt pancakes on lazy Sundays. Now it all belonged to the past. And the call she was waiting for? It never came. Emma had always thought of herself as strong, independent, the kind of woman who didn't need anyone to be whole. But now, with every passing day of silence, she felt like a thread unraveling. Not because Liam left, but because she drove him away and didn't know how to undo it. The phone calls had stopped. The obsessive refreshing of her inbox, the checking of mutual friends' stories, all of it faded into quiet acceptance. He wasn't coming back. So one sleepless night, she opened a blank document on her laptop and started to write him a letter. Not to send. Just to let it out. Dear Liam, I said I was leaving because I wanted you to fight for me. I didn't say it because I meant it. I wanted to know I still mattered, that I wasn't invisible in our relationship. But I realize now how selfish that was. You were carrying so much of the weight, and I didn't even see it. You were calm when I was cruel, patient when I was frustrated. You made me tea when I was sick, gave me space when I was angry, and held me even when I didn't ask for it. And what did I do? I turned your steady love into a test you were never supposed to pass. I thought love meant drama. I thought if it wasn't intense, it wasn't real. But now I see love was your silence when I raged. Love was your effort when I withdrew. Love was staying through all the threats until the one time you decided not to. And now I'm left writing this letter, crying every night, not because you're gone, but because I finally understand what I had. I don't expect you to come back. I don't know if I deserve for you to, but I needed to say all this, even if only into the void. You mattered. You always did. And I'm so sorry I made you doubt that. Emma, when she finished, her hands trembled. The cursor blinked at the bottom of the screen like it was waiting for more, but she had nothing left. She saved the document, then closed the laptop slowly. That night, for the first time in weeks, Emma allowed herself to cry. Not the stubborn tears that came from pride, but the deep, broken sobs that only come when you finally told the truth. She wrote 4 more letters in the days that followed, each one revealing a different layer of guilt, memory, and sorrow. She kept them in a folder on her desktop labeled Never Sent. Because she knew now, some things are meant to be said, even if they're never heard. And some people leave, not because they stop loving you, but because they've finally learned to love themselves more. Mornings used to be shared, 2 mugs, 1 playlist, soft conversation. Now they were silent. Emma stood in front of the bathroom mirror, toothbrush in hand, staring at her reflection like it belonged to someone else. Her eyes looked older. Not just tired, but stripped, honest. For weeks, she had waited for Liam to return, for him to realize she was worth saving. But he hadn't, and as much as that hurt, a small voice in her, quiet but growing, kept asking, would it even fix anything if he did? She sighed, wiped condensation from the glass, and stared harder. The truth was finally settling in. This wasn't just about Liam. This was about her. The parts she had refused to confront. The wounds she covered with sarcasm. The emotions she masked with pride. For years, she had mistaken control for confidence, ultimatums for communication, and fear of abandonment for strength. Now, stripped of the relationship, the noise, the drama, she could finally see herself clearly. And she didn't like what she saw. Emma had always blamed others when things broke. Her exes were too cold, too clingy, too boring. Liam was too calm. But now she saw the pattern. Every man who tried to love her had been pushed away, tested to the point of exhaustion. And when they finally left, she told herself they weren't strong enough. But what if she was the one who wasn't strong? That thought hit her like cold water. The next few days became a quiet reckoning. She started journaling, brutally, honestly. She didn't hold back. She wrote about how she used silence as punishment. How she withheld love to gain control. How she confused chaos with passion. How she never learned to feel safe unless someone else was proving they'd never leave. She even signed up for therapy. Just the thought of saying these things aloud made her stomach turn, but she knew she couldn't keep running from herself. Not this time. The hardest part wasn't losing Liam, it was realizing she might not have deserved the version of him she had. The man who cooked her breakfast while she picked fights. Who rubbed her back in silence during her bad days. Who listened even when she didn't speak kindly. She stared at her reflection again the night before her first therapy session, this time not with judgment, but with a question. Can I change? She didn't know the answer. But for the first time, she was willing to try. Not to get him back. Not to fix the past. But to stop crying every night over a version of herself that never learned how to love fully. The mirror didn't lie. It showed a woman who had lost something precious, but maybe, just maybe, still had something left to gain. Herself. 3 months later, Emma found herself walking through a quiet bookstore in the city. She wasn't searching for anything in particular, just passing time after her therapy session. The world felt different now. Not healed, not perfect, but clearer. She was no longer looking over her shoulder every few minutes, hoping Liam would appear. The grief had faded into something quieter, more manageable. Like a scar that no longer stung, but still itched on rainy days. As she passed the nonfiction aisle, her heart skipped. There he was. Liam. Standing by the philosophy section, flipping through a paperback. He looked the same, yet different. Healthier. Softer. Lighter, somehow. He hadn't seen her yet. For a moment, she froze, unsure whether to run or cry or hide behind the shelf. But she didn't move. Instead, she stepped forward. "Hey," she said softly. He turned. For a second, surprise flashed in his eyes. Then something else. Kindness. Caution. Maybe even peace. "Emma," he said with a small smile. "Hi." They stood in a moment that felt like an echo of another life. There was no tension. No anger. Just the quiet space between two people who once knew each other better than anyone else. "You look good," she offered, meaning it. "So do you," he said. "Have you been?" She hesitated. "Growing," she said finally. "It's been hard, but I've been doing the work." "For real this time." He nodded slowly. "That's good. I'm glad." Silence stretched again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Emma wanted to say so much about the letters, the nights she cried, the lessons she learned too late. But instead, she asked, "Are you happy?" He thought for a moment, then said, "Yeah, I think I am. It's been quiet, but peaceful. I needed that." "I get that," she said. "I didn't back then, but I do now." He nodded again. "I always hoped you would." There was no bitterness in his voice, just closure. She could have begged him to try again. Could have poured her heart out in the middle of that bookstore. But something in her heart knew that wasn't what this moment was for. This wasn't a second chance at them, it was a final goodbye between who they were and who they had become. "If I ever see you again," she said gently, "I hope it's on a day like this." He smiled. "Me too." And then they said goodbye. No promises. No tears. Just two people parting in peace, knowing the past had shaped them, but no longer defined them. Emma walked out of the bookstore feeling both heavy and light. She would always carry Liam with her in some quiet corner of her heart, not as a regret, but as a turning point. She no longer cried every night. And maybe love hadn't stayed, but it had taught her everything she needed to finally begin again. One